Our lead story tonight, the Congress began its brainstorming session in Udaipur for 3 days. Sonia Gandhi addressed all the delegates there. She stressed on how they must both be Chintan on national issues. She attacked the Prime Minister Modi and she said the BJP's polarizing policies are dividing the nation. She also stressed that there must now be Atma Chintan on what's currently going on in the party, that they must accept change and it needs to be done urgently, putting all personal interests aside. There was also discussion, Ajay Markan said in a press conference, of a key proposal which will limit one ticket to one family. But there's a key loophole in this.
On the many tasks ahead of us, so it is both a Chintan about national issues and a meaningful Atma Chintan about our party organization. Most painfully clear what Prime Minister Modi and his colleagues really mean by their frequently repeated slogan, maximum governance, minimum government, keeping the country in a state of permanent polarization, compelling people to live in a constant state of fear. It means glorifying the killers of Mahatma Gandhi and their ideologues. It means more empty slogans, diversionary tactics, and utter silence on the part of an ever so eloquent Prime Minister when the healing touch is most needed.
The Congress train pulled into Udaipur with 400 delegates and a lot on its agenda, but nothing officially on the critical issue of leadership. Sonia Gandhi has been interim president for 3 years. Her son Rahul Gandhi resigned after the 2019 election debacle, but continues to call the shots.
हर संगठन को न केवल जीवित रहने के लिए बल्कि बढ़ने के लिए भी समय-समय पर अपने अंदर परिवर्तन लाने होते हैं. हमें सुधारों की सख्त जरूरत है.
The party is now proposing a big reform. One family, one ticket, but with a loophole. One that allows Priyanka Gandhi Vadra to also get a ticket along with others in the party's first family.
It should be one family, one ticket only. And if another member of the family wants to contest the election, then that member of the family should have worked in the organization for at least 5 years.
The one family, one ticket principle is a revolutionary step and clearly will be difficult to implement. And there is definitely a caveat, especially for political dynasts, including the Gandhi family, where they have made an exception that those who have been active in the party for the last 5 years will be exempt from that principle.
The 3-day brainstorming session is only the second such since the Congress's worst ever string of losses began in 2014. The road ahead for the Congress is not easy. It lost 4 assembly elections earlier this year and it faces the test in another 2 later this year, Himachal and Gujarat. And what's going to be an even bigger challenge, the only 2 states the Congress is in power in, Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh, will go to the polls in 2023. Will the party be able to reinvent itself before that? With Sunil Prabhu in Udaipur, Harsha Kumari Singh, NDTV.
Well, moving now to the other big headline, and this is the outrage and the protests as the Kashmiri Pandit community in the Kashmir Valley are outraged, angry and grieving over the killing by terrorists yesterday of Rahul Bhatt, who was a revenue officer. Rahul Bhatt was shot in the Tehsildar's office in his chamber. He was singled out and targeted, and now today police lathi charge and tear gas Kashmiri Pandits who are protesting, saying that they want to be transferred to Jammu immediately because they're not safe in the valley.
Since yesterday, they've blocked the Srinagar-Budgam road. Even threatened to block the road to the airport, shouting slogans against the centre and the state. Even the LG for the failure to protect Pandits. Protesting Kashmiri Pandits forcing the district magistrate of Budgam to leave their protest site in Shehlpora, reflecting the anger against the government after terrorists killed 36-year-old Rahul Bhatt inside the local Tehsil office. Rahul was a clerk in the Revenue Department, appointed in 2010 under the Prime Minister Manmohan Singh's employment scheme for Kashmiri Pandit migrants. He leaves behind a grieving family, old parents, his wife and a 7-year-old daughter. As the protests continue in the valley, Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha met the family in Jammu.
हालात बद से बदतर होते जा रहे हैं जहां मरकजी सरकार अपनी नाकामियां छुपाने के लिए हिंदू मुसलमानों को आपस में लड़ाने का खेल खेल रही है। ऐसे में तमाम जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों पे ये फर्ज आयद होता है कि हम जो हमारे बीच में रहने वाले, चाहे वो कश्मीरी पंडित हो, चाहे हमारे सरदार भाई हो, ये आज हम अपने माइनॉरिटीज के साथ यहाँ खड़े रहें।
कल उसको दफ्तर में गोली मारी गई है, ऑफिस में बैठकर, और नाम पुकार कर गोली मारी गई है। पहले नाम से पुकारा, राहुल भट्ट कौन है, उसके बाद गोली मारी गई। पिस्टल निकाला, पिस्टल से फायर किया। हम बोलते हैं कि इंक्वायरी हो, सही कमीशन बैठे, इसमें सही पता करे कि ये कैसे हुआ।
क्या मदद पाने, क्या हो गया बेचारे को, फिर वापस बेचारा चला गया, बेचारा क्या करो, इतना इज्जत है उसको बेचारे को।
Bhatt was singled out and shot by 2 terrorists while he was sitting in his office in the Tehsildar's chambers. Since the shooting, over 4,000 Kashmiri Pandit government employees are holding multiple protests. They have threatened mass resignations if they are not immediately transferred to safe places in Jammu instead of serving in Kashmir under the constant fear of being targeted. In the last 7 months, 3 Pandits have been killed and 2 others injured in targeted attacks.
गवर्नमेंट का आखिर प्लान क्या है, गवर्नमेंट आखिर चाहती क्या है? कल राहुल जी को वो ऑफिस में, मजिस्ट्रेट के ऑफिस में नहीं बचा पाए, तो हम जैसे लोगों को जो कश्मीर वैली में ओवरऑल गुलमर्ग, पहलगाम, अनंतनाग, साउथ, उड़ी, गुरेज तक हमारे लोग हैं सर, हमारे इंजीनियर्स, हमारे पैकेज, उन लोगों को जब सेफ्टी ने, तो हम लोगों को क्या है सर?
And today, another special police officer was shot and killed by terrorists in his home. Since October last year, there have been series of targeted attacks on migrant workers, Kashmiri Pandits, Panchayat members and policemen.
Rahul Bhatt was among first Kashmiri Pandits who returned in 2010 as part of Prime Minister's special employment package. With his return, the community was hopeful of their return to their roots. 12 years on, Kashmiri Pandit community is again at crossroads. None of these employees is now willing to live in the valley. Nobody knows who will be the next target. In Sheikhpura, Badgam, Nazir Masoodi, Fahimi.
And in tragic news coming in, 4 passengers have died. They've been burnt on a bus which caught fire. 20 others have been injured. This is a bus that was coming back from Vaishno Devi. It caught a fire near Katra in Jammu. So the bus carrying Vaishno Devi pilgrims, of which 4 people have been killed. You can still not clear what actually caused that fire, but you can see that the bus is completely charred. We'll bring you more details as we get it. The Punjab police today said they have solved the case of the rocket-propelled grenade which is used against a Punjab intelligence office in Mohali. They said that the main mastermind behind this was a man, a gangster based in Canada, who got help from the ISI and Pakistan.
After a rocket-propelled grenade was fired at the Punjab Police Intelligence Headquarters, the cops say they have cracked the case.
जिसने सारा कुछ लॉजिस्टिक ऑर्गेनाइज की है वो हैगा लखवीर सिंह लांडा। लखवीर सिंह लांडा ये तरनतारन जिले का रहने वाला है। लांडा ये गैंगस्टर होंदा सी और 2017 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਸ਼ਿਫਟ ਕਰ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ। He is a close associate of ਹਰਵਿੰਦਰ ਰਿੰਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਜਾਣਦੇ ਹਾਂ that he is in the close proximity of Wadawa Singh and Pak ISI, and he operates from Pakistan.
The police chief says the attack was planned by Babbar Khalsa International, a terror outfit and a gangster with the backing of Pakistan's ISI.
BKI and gangster ये जड़ा एक्सेस है इन्होंने मिलके किया है, and of course with the backing of Pak ISI. Now लांडा दे जिहड़े मेन एसोसीएट जो साढ़े नोटिस आए हैं, वन ऑफ देम इज निशान सिंह। निशान सिंह जिहड़ा है ये भी तरनतारन दा रहने वाला है और थोड़े दिन पहले इन्हू फरीदकोट पुलिस ने भी राउंड अप कीता सी, अरेस्ट कीता है।
The police have arrested 6 people who provided shelter, arms as well as RPG, a lethal but rare weapon used in terror attacks here. But 3 more people who carried out the attack were yet to be arrested. Terror outfits have been reportedly pushing arms and ammunition from Pakistan into Punjab despite an electric fence. The use of an RPG, that too against a high-profile police building, has ratcheted up the threat perception. With Mohammad Ghazali, Priyanshi Sharma for NDTV.
In other news, well, again, a language row has broken out. This after Tamil Nadu's education minister, speaking in Coimbatore, said that Hindi speakers end up just selling pani-puri. So why not learn the international language, English, instead? As expected, that's created a huge outrage from North Indian politicians.
There are 2 languages, one in Tamil, one in English. English is an international language. Tamil is a local language. 2 languages are there. Anna has told, அவர் ஒரு உதாரணம் சொன்னார், பூனை போகிறதுக்கு ஒரு வழி இருக்கு. அந்த பூனை போகிற வழியிலேயே, ஏன்னா ரொம்ப பேர் சொன்னாங்க ஹிந்தி படித்தா வேலை கிடைக்குதா, ஹிந்தி நம்ம ஊரில் கோயம்புத்தூரில் போய் பாருங்க, பான்பூரி வச்சுக்கிறோம், எந்த கடை யார், எல்லாம் அவன் தான்.
So that controversy there. Why don't ministers and netas just mind their language, especially since in a culturally diverse country and linguistically diverse country, everyone has very strong sensitivity towards their own languages. Moving on, in other news, well, the markets declined for the 6th straight session today. The Sensex falling by 136 points, ending at 52,793. The Nifty also falling 25 points, closing at 15,782. Metal and banking shares declined the most today. This is apparently the longest weekly losing streak since 2020. Experts say global inflation growth concerns as well as Indian inflation growth concerns persist, and the rupee also remained weak today, ending at 77 rupees 44 paise to the dollar. And Twitter new owner Elon Musk has tweeted today saying that the Twitter deal is temporarily on hold. This amid reports of how the less than 5% of Twitter's users are bots, i.e. fake users. But as shares started tumbling, he quickly tweeted again saying he's still committed to the acquisition. But watch Twitter for more.
The classic Twitter twist by none other than the world's richest man eyeing full ownership of the microblogging site. After sending shockwaves by tweeting the deal to take over Twitter is temporarily on hold, hours later the world's richest man quickly saves the stock prices from sliding further and says he is still committed to the acquisition. Even as the Twitter takeover twist continues, Musk still vows to clean up spam bot accounts. What then led to the fresh twist? Reports suggest if the spam accounts make up around or more than 5% of Twitter users, there is a risk that he may be overpaying for the $44 billion deal. Overpriced or not, Musk does sound determined about his intentions and the acquisition.
They say the road to hell is paved with good intentions, but I think it's mostly paved with bad intentions. But every now and again there's a good intention in there, and hopefully my good intentions do not pave the road to hell. Welcome everyone.
With Sakshi Bajaj, Anusya Mathur for NDTV.
The story that everyone really is asking about, and this is about the weather and the monsoon. So the good news is that the monsoon is expected to arrive earlier than normal. It's expected to reach Kerala on May the 27th. The usual date of the monsoon arrival is June the 1st. Also, the advance of the southwest monsoon into the Andaman Sea will happen around May the 15th according to the Weather Department predictions. However, the heat wave spell over north and central India will continue over the next 3 days. In fact, let's just look at the hottest cities today. So, Sheikh, Ganganagar in Rajasthan has already crossed 48 degrees in May. That's 7 degrees above normal. That's followed by Barmer, also in Rajasthan, at 47.8 degrees, up 6 degrees. Then Bikaner and Churu, all in Rajasthan, and Gwalior in Madhya Pradesh at 46.2. So, really the best place to be in India right now is in Bengaluru.
Bangalore weather is always like this, right? Summer is never just summer. Summer has showers and we have beautiful showers.
After the rain, it's getting cold. The leaves and trees seem to have got a new lease of life, greenery and the change in the sky welcome say citizens. These days the temperature is hovering between 19.5 degrees to 25 degrees. For the first time in the last 10 years, the maximum temperatures in the city have been less than 25 degrees at this time.
Absolutely loved the morning today. The weather here was perfect, and how contrasting it is, because last week we were only complaining so much about the heat, and I'm sure some people love the sun. So there are mixed opinions about the sun, but enjoying the weather, can't complain.
Weather is very pleasant, and I am traveling from Bombay, and it's nice to see the weather here. It's not too hot, it's not too cold, so enjoying the city.
And the beautiful weather means tea shops are seeing bigger crowds and people are wearing warm clothes outdoors.
Rain with thunderstorm is expected for the next few days. It means the temperature of Bengaluru and some parts of Karnataka may further fall. With Divya Vadhva, Nihal Khidwai for NDTV.
And moving to the other news, Sri Lanka's new Prime Minister has taken charge. One of his first meetings was with the Indian High Commissioner. Shrija in Colombo has more. Shrija, what are the details of that meeting?
Well, today is the first day of Ranil Wickremesinghe as the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, and the first thing what we did, see was where he held discussions on the formation of a financial consortium. This is basically to address the crisis, the economic crisis that the country has plunged into. Remember, it's most important to see that where the foreign reserves have hit a new low and people continue to protest. But what's important to note here is there were several meetings that were held, especially with the Indian High Commissioners, the foreign envoys. The first was the Indian High Commissioner that Ranil Wickremesinghe met and of course did assure about the support that's going to come to the island nation Sri Lanka, the continuous support from India that will be offered, and several times we have also seen where India offering under the credit line. And that apart, most important one was the meeting with the Chinese ambassador as well. The Chinese ambassador did talk about where China as a country is interested to provide support in terms of the money, but also did pledge upon to in fact review what's really been offered so far.
Right, and we can see, of course, the protests continuing behind you, Shrija. But let's see how Mr. Wickremesinghe can actually get some kind of control over that flailing economy. Thanks so much for joining me. Meanwhile, in news coming in, the UAE President Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al-Nahyan has died at 73 years old. He has been President of the UAE since 2004. However, his role had been largely ceremonial since he suffered a stroke in 2014. The world's tallest tower, Burj Khalifa, is in fact named after him. The UAE Ministry of Presidential Affairs has announced 40 days of mourning and flags at half-mast across the UAE. Prime Minister Modi has also tweeted saying he's deeply saddened to know about the passing away of Sheikh Khalifa. But as we leave you tonight, we leave you also with this very special tribute. These pictures from the funeral of Maestro Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma, where fellow Maestro Ustad Zakir Hussain, visibly shaken, was there as a pallbearer and to bear witness as his old friend and fellow Maestro left this world.
Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma's final journey. One of his pallbearers shouldering his legacy, another maestro, Ustad Zakir Hussain. Ustad Zakir Hussain's send-off for his friend and musical partner of many years, captured in this photograph. Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma's funeral was attended by fans and family members, wrapped in tricolour during the state funeral. These photos perhaps best capture the friendship of two stalwarts of Indian classical music, brought together by music and transcending all boundaries of religion and other earthly divisions. The two collaborated in several stage shows, and Ustad Zakir Hussain's grief was visible through his stoic bearing.